no temptations?
Well, I didn't say that we never had temptations. I'm the kind of person that if, by being apart, if we should meet somebody, I would never tell him. He would never know and it wouldn't hurt him.
Country music has always given us heroes, voices that carried our heartbreak and our hope. But behind the stage lights, many legends lived lives riddled with secrets, scandals, and shameful truths. Some of the ugliest whispers centered on their sex lives, affairs, betrayals, and humiliating secrets that left scars far beyond the music. These weren't just rumors. They were the dirty truths that fans were never meant to hear. Prepare to be shocked as we unveil 13 true disgusting old country music rumors. From secret affairs to shocking abuse, this is the side of country music you were never supposed to hear. Number 13, Hank Williams Sr.'s affairs. For decades, whispers followed Hank Williams Sr. that the man who sang so hauntingly about heartbreak was constantly breaking hearts himself. The rumor was that Hank carried on numerous affairs while married to Audrey Williams, flaunting his infidelities, even as he sang about love and loss. At first, fans dismissed it as tabloid gossip, the kind of exaggeration that trails any star. But those closest to Hank confirmed it. He was unfaithful, reckless, and often cruel in his personal life. The affairs weren't discreet. Fellow musicians recalled seeing him with women on the road, and Audrey herself later admitted she had endured betrayal after betrayal. His selfishness and womanizing left deep scars on their marriage, adding turmoil to a relationship already strained by addiction and unreliability. What sounded like rumor was in fact a humiliating truth. Country's first great superstar was also one of its most notorious cheaters. The fallout spread beyond his marriage. His reputation among peers became one of both awe and disgust. Awestruck by his genius, disgusted by his inability to honor the vows he sang about. Hank's affairs weren't just private matters. They were open wounds in the gossip circuits of Nashville, fueling stories that tarnished his image, even as his records sold in droves. It's a disgusting reality that complicates Hank's legacy. His music remains immortal, but behind the poetry was a man who treated love as carelessly as he treated his health. The rumors of infidelity weren't lies. They were lived reality, and they haunt the legend of Hank Williams Sr. to this day. Number 12, the Tammy Wynette kidnapping story.
As I watch him lie next.
For years, Tammy Wynette insisted she had been abducted, beaten, and abandoned by strangers. The bruises were real, but the story never added up. Investigators quietly questioned her account, and decades later, her own daughters claimed the abduction was staged, allegedly to cover up domestic abuse at the hands of her husband, George Ritchie. If true, the rumor wasn't just bizarre, it was sickening, a fabricated crime masking even darker realities. Tammy's public suffered with her, but privately, the truth was even more grotesque. The scandal resurfaced in the 2000s when her daughter spoke out more directly, insisting their mother's kidnapping tale was a cover for violence she endured at home. While Ritchie denied the claims, the inconsistencies in Tammy's original story and the years of silence around it left fans unsettled. What had once been whispered in Nashville corners became part of her permanent legacy, a shameful mystery tied to one of country's greatest voices. The kidnapping story remains one of the most disturbing chapters in country music history. Was Tammy forced to invent a cover story? Was it her way of protecting the man she couldn't escape? No matter the full truth, the rumor proved far too real to dismiss. Her pain was authentic, and it revealed the shocking reality that sometimes the most public stars were living private nightmares. Number 11, Porter Wagoner exploiting Dolly Parton.
There's a picture.
The partnership between Porter Wagoner and Dolly Parton gave the world unforgettable duets, but behind the rhinestones lay a toxic truth. Rumors swirled that Wagoner controlled and exploited Dolly, refusing to let her go when she wanted to pursue a solo career. The legal battle that followed exposed the ugly truth. He sued her for millions, claiming ownership of her success. Dolly responded with grace, writing, "I will always love you as a farewell." But the rumor of his exploitation proved all too real. It was a disgusting betrayal of trust from a mentor who should have lifted her up. Dolly later admitted that leaving Wagoner's show was one of the hardest decisions of her career, made even more painful by his attempts to block her. Fans who adored the duo's chemistry were stunned to see the relationship collapse in public court filings, with Wagoner demanding money and recognition for Dolly's later fame. Instead of being remembered as her champion, He became remembered as the man who tried to chain her to his stage. In the end, Porter's exploitation backfired. Dolly's career soared to heights no lawsuit could stop, and the song she wrote to say goodbye became one of the most iconic ballads of all time. The rumor that he tried to control her wasn't just true. It was a reminder that some of the ugliest betrayals come not from enemies, but from mentors who should have been allies. Number 10. The abuse behind Loretta Lynn's marriage.
And what I see is a pity. You better close your face.
Loretta Lynn often spoke of her husband Doolittle as both the love of her life and the source of her greatest pain. The rumor was that he was abusive, verbally, physically, and emotionally. In her autobiography, Loretta confirmed it all, even recalling violent fights and betrayals. Their marriage, romanticized in films and songs, was in truth riddled with cruelty. Fans who idolized their love story were left to face a harsher reality. Loretta endured years of abuse while building her empire. The ugly rumor was tragically true. The violence and betrayal weren't isolated moments. They were patterns that shaped her daily life. Loretta admitted she sometimes fought back, but the cycle of abuse left scars that even success couldn't erase. For audiences who adored the image of a strong country wife, it was a shattering revelation that their heroine's reality was built on pain. The rumor of her husband's cruelty wasn't just gossip. It was her lived experience. In the end, Loretta Lynn's triumph is that she turned her suffering into songs that gave strength to millions of women. But the truth behind her marriage remains disgusting. Even as she gave the world empowerment, she lived through betrayal and abuse at home. Number 9. Johnny Cash's cheating rumors.
A close watch on this heart of mine.
Johnny Cash's outlaw charm made him an American icon, but behind the Man in Black legend were persistent rumors of infidelity. Whispers claimed that while married to his first wife, Vivian, Cash carried on numerous affairs during the height of his career. For years, fans dismissed it as gossip until Vivian herself confirmed the betrayals in her memoir, describing the heartbreak and humiliation she endured. On the road, Cash's womanizing became an open secret among fellow musicians. Fueled by fame, pills, and recklessness, women were drawn to his charisma, and Johnny rarely said no. The affairs strained his marriage beyond repair, and eventually led to its collapse, leaving Vivian humiliated in the shadow of her husband's rising stardom. While June Carter would later become his devoted partner and eventual wife, the truth of his betrayals never disappeared. Vivian's accounts, along with stories from bandmates, revealed the ugly underside of a man who sang about redemption, but often lived in contradiction. Cash's behavior wasn't just a slip, it was a pattern that scarred his family and tarnished his legend. The rumors of Johnny Cash's cheating weren't exaggerations, they were reality. It was a disgusting side of an American icon that forced fans to confront the painful truth. The Man in Black could be as faithless and destructive in love as he was unforgettable in song. Number 8. Conway Twitty's ruthless business practices. Conway Twitty may have been a crooner on stage, but behind the curtain, rumors swirled of ruthless dealings. Former bandmates and associates described contracts that left them exploited, with Conway pocketing profits while others barely scraped by. The rumor that he bled those closest to him for money turned out to be true in more than one case, sparking lawsuits and bitterness. The charming lady's man of country harbored a business side that was cold, calculating, and disgustingly greedy. Stories emerged of Conway pushing associates into unfair contracts that bound them to him while leaving them struggling financially. Band members who once stood loyally by his side later admitted they felt used. Their loyalty repaid with betrayal. Behind the smooth love songs was a businessman who saw people as pawns in his climb to success. The fallout from these revelations added a darker layer to his legacy. Fans adored the image of Conway the romantic, but insiders knew the truth. He was as cutthroat as any corporate mogul, and perhaps even more so because he wore the mask of charm. The disgusting reality of his business practices reminds us that even the most seductive crooners can hide ruthless greed behind their velvet voices. Number 7. Tanya Tucker and Glenn Campbell's violent relationship. The rumors of Tanya Tucker and Glenn Campbell's stormy romance were so wild they sounded made up. Screaming matches, drug-fueled fights, even physical violence. But both Tucker and Campbell later confirmed the chaos. Tanya was barely out of her teens. Campbell was nearly 20 years older, and together they spiraled into a toxic mess that played out in tabloids and behind closed doors. The rumor wasn't just true, it was even worse than whispered, a scandal of abuse and dysfunction that left scars for decades. Behind the headlines, their relationship was a cautionary tale of fame, addiction, and obsession. Campbell's drug use and violent temper collided with Tanya's youthful rebellion, creating an explosive cycle that neither could control. Friends and insiders recalled terrifying fights, broken furniture, and nights that ended in tears and bruises. What tabloids printed as scandal was, in truth, an ugly reality. Both would later reflect on that time with regret, acknowledging the chaos they inflicted on each other. But the scars, emotional and physical, were real, and the story remains one of the most disgusting and tragic romances in country music history. For fans, it was proof that even beloved stars could live private lives filled with violence and betrayal. Number 6. Johnny Paycheck shooting a man. The rumor of outlaw singer Johnny Paycheck pulling a gun in a bar brawl sounded like a tall tale, until it made national headlines. In 1985, Paycheck actually shot a man in the head during an argument over a plate of food. The victim survived, but Paycheck was convicted and sent to prison. For years, his name had been synonymous with drunken brawls and bad behavior, and this confirmed the worst. It wasn't myth, it was reality, and it was disgusting. The shooting was the culmination of years of reckless living. Paycheck's drinking and drug abuse had already derailed his career more than once, and the violent outburst cemented his reputation as one of the country's most dangerous outlaws. Friends and bandmates described a man spiraling out of control, whose temper was as unpredictable as his performances. Fans who once saw him as a rebel began to view him instead as a liability. Though he later expressed remorse and eventually found faith, the damage was irreversible. His prison sentence became as infamous as his music, leaving behind a legacy tainted by violence. The rumor of Paycheck's gunplay wasn't just a colorful outlaw tale. It was the sickening truth of a man undone by his own rage. Number 5. Lefty Frizzell's destroyed career. Rumors swirled that Lefty Frizzell, one of the most gifted honky-tonk singers, destroyed his own career through alcohol and irresponsibility. Sadly, it was true. Stories of him missing recording sessions, showing up drunk, and squandering opportunities haunted his reputation. By the time he died at 47, he was a shadow of what he could have been. The disgusting truth was that talent wasn't enough. His addictions wasted a voice that could have gone down as one of the greatest. Those close to him recalled his inability to control his drinking, which left him unreliable and difficult to work with. His record label and managers struggled to keep him on track, but time after time, he sabotaged his own chances. Concerts were missed, fans were disappointed, and his reputation slipped further away with each drunken episode. By the 1970s, Lefty was all but forgotten, eclipsed by the very artists he had inspired. His downfall became a cautionary tale of wasted talent, proving that genius can't survive without discipline. The rumors of his self-destruction weren't exaggerations. They were the tragic, disgusting reality of a man who threw away greatness. Number 4. Spade Cooley's murderous rage.
Are soft as satin and they taste like gingerbread. Ho, ho, ho.
The rumor that Western swing star Spade Cooley was violent at home proved not only true but monstrous. In 1961, he brutally murdered his wife in front of their young daughter. For years, whispers had circulated about his jealousy and temper, but no one imagined it would end in such horror. The truth was worse than the rumor, a grotesque stain on country's history. Cooley went from TV darling to convicted killer, his name forever synonymous with brutality. The murder shocked not just fans, but the entire nation. Newspapers detailed the grisly crime, exposing years of domestic violence that had been hidden behind his fame. His daughter, forced to testify against her father, carried the trauma for life. The man once celebrated as the king of Western swing was reduced to a headline of blood and betrayal. Spade Cooley's story is one of the darkest in music history. The rumors of his violence were not gossip. They were warnings ignored until it was too late. His legacy, once built on lively swing tunes, is forever marked by murder and cruelty, making him one of the most disgusting figures in country music lore. Number 3. Patsy Cline's Premonition of Death.
And it's signed with love.
Fans whispered that Patsy Cline somehow knew her end was near. In the months before her fatal 1963 plane crash, she reportedly told friends she felt death coming. and even wrote notes preparing for it. At the time, it sounded like morbid gossip, but after her death, the letters surfaced, proof that the rumor was true. It was less grotesque than eerie, a chilling glimpse into the mind of a legend who foresaw her tragic fate. Friends later recalled her speaking openly about visions of dying young, almost as if she had resigned herself to a fate she couldn't escape. Fellow performers found her words unsettling, but Patsy brushed them off with a mix of humor and fatalism. When the crash came, those haunting conversations became part of her legacy, adding an eerie layer to her legend. The rumor of Patsy Cline's premonitions wasn't just sensational gossip. It was a glimpse into the anxiety of a woman who lived fast and seemed to sense time was running out. Her tragic foresight has become as much a part of her story as her music, forever tying her brilliance to an untimely, chilling end. Number 2, Elvis Presley's Opry rejection. The rumor that Elvis Presley bombed at the Grand Ole Opry and was told to go back to truck driving was so cruel it seemed impossible. But it was true. In 1954, Elvis debuted with his new sound and left the Opry managers unimpressed. They dismissed him, never inviting him back. Within weeks, Elvis joined the Louisiana Hayride, where audiences went wild. The Opry rumor turned out to be one of the most infamous blunders in country history. For Elvis, the rejection was crushing. He had dreamed of the Opry stage since boyhood, only to be dismissed as a misfit. The humiliation could have ended his career before it began, but instead it fueled his determination. The Hayride embraced him, and soon after, so did the entire world. The Opry's cruel rejection became the spark that drove him into superstardom. The truth of that night is a reminder that behind every legend is a moment of humiliation that shaped them. Elvis's rejection wasn't just rumor. It was the ugly reality of Nashville failing to recognize genius, and it remains one of the most disgusting mistakes in country music history. Number 1, Hank Williams dies in the back of a Cadillac. The most infamous rumor of all was that Hank Williams died alone in the backseat of a Cadillac while being driven to a New Year's show. For years, it sounded too sad, too shameful to be true, but it was. In 1953, at just 29 years old, Hank's body gave out from years of addiction and abuse. The driver didn't realize he was dead until hours later. It remains one of the most tragic and, yes, disgusting truths in country music history. The greatest voice of his generation gone in the loneliest of ways. The details of his death only deepened the tragedy. Bottles of painkillers and alcohol were found with him, evidence of the demons that had consumed his final years. Friends and family were left to grapple with the shame that one of America's greatest artists had been reduced to a broken body in the backseat of a car. The rumor of Hank's lonely death wasn't exaggerated. It was the heartbreaking reality. His story is a stark reminder of how fame, addiction, and self-destruction can collide to destroy even the brightest star. Hank Williams' final ride is remembered not as a legend's triumph, but as a haunting symbol of wasted genius. Which of these rumors shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories from country music's hidden past. And before you go, check out the other videos on your screen. You won't want to miss them.